In a bold move, Israel has expanded its presence in Syria by occupying the villages of Jamla and Maraba in the Yarmouk Basin of Dara province. Don't miss out on the next part of this story. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback takes the conversation to the next level. This action has sparked protests among local residents, who have taken to the streets with Syria's new flags, chanting, "Defol Israel, go away, Israel." Israeli forces responded by opening fire from their positions on the hills, resulting in one person being injured. The Israeli army acknowledged the incident, claiming that the soldiers perceived a threat during the demonstrations. This development follows the recent collapse of Syria's 61-year Ba'ath regime on December 8, which has led to increased Israeli military activity in the region. The Israeli army has been targeting remaining military infrastructure and has extended its occupation beyond the Golan Heights, advancing to within 25 kilometers of the capital, Damascus. Don't miss out on the next part of this story. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback takes the conversation to the next level. Israel has occupied the Golan Heights since 1967. The 1974 disengagement agreement between Israel and Syria established a buffer zone and demilitarized areas, which Israel is now accused of violating with its recent advances. These actions have drawn international criticism, with Turkey's Ministry of Foreign Affairs condemning Israel's incursions and reaffirming support for Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity. As tensions escalate, the situation raises concerns about the future stability of the region and the potential for further conflicts. Israel's recent military activity in the Yarmouk Basin of Syria, particularly the occupation of Jamla and Maraba, represents a significant and controversial escalation in the region. The actions come in the aftermath of the collapse of Syria's Ba'ath regime, a seismic political shift that has left a power vacuum and heightened instability. Local protests and Israel's response to them underline the tensions between occupying forces and the Syrian population, who are navigating a post-regime reality filled with uncertainty. The historical context is critical. Israel's occupation of the Golan Heights since 1967 has been a contentious issue, with international law and agreements, such as the 1974 Disengagement Agreement, attempting to provide a framework for peace and stability. However, Israel's current actions suggest a departure from these agreements, raising questions about long-term intentions and the region's future stability. Don't miss out on the next part of this story. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback takes the conversation to the next level. The international response has been swift, with Turkey's Ministry of Foreign Affairs voicing strong condemnation. This highlights the broader geopolitical implications, as nations with vested interests in Syria's territorial integrity grapple with the possibility of expanded Israeli influence. Meanwhile, the proximity of Israeli forces to Damascus, only 25 kilometers away, raises alarm about potential future incursions and the risk of wider conflict. The sun dipped low over the Yarmouk Basin, casting long shadows over the quiet villages of Jamla and Maraba. For decades, these villages had been caught in the crosswinds of history, nestled between conflict and uneasy peace. But the evening of December 10, 2024, brought a storm that would alter their fate forever. The collapse of Syria's Ba'ath regime 2 days earlier had left a void in governance. For the villagers, the regime's fall was both a relief and a source of anxiety. Celebrations had been brief, for whispers of advancing Israeli forces had reached their ears. Those whispers turned to shouts when, at dawn, Israeli tanks rolled into the villages, their tracks cutting deep into the land like scars. Ayman, a 19-year-old student, stood in the village square of Jamla. The Israeli soldiers were posted on the nearby hills, their presence a stark reminder of the new reality. The air was thick with tension as residents gathered, holding Syria's new flags high and chanting, "Defol Israel. Go away, Israel." The voices grew louder, defiant against the occupation. Don't miss out on the next part of this story. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback takes the conversation to the next level. Then came the gunfire. It wasn't a barrage, just a few sharp cracks that echoed across the valley. But one bullet was enough. It struck a man standing beside Ayman, a father of 3 who had been clutching a flagpole. The man crumpled to the ground, his blood seeping into the earth. Ayman froze, his heart pounding as screams filled the air. The soldiers remained on the hill, their rifles trained on the crowd, while a plume of smoke rose from a distant field, signaling destruction beyond the village. The protests dispersed as villagers carried the injured man to safety. But the spirit of defiance remained. That night, Amen sat with his grandfather, listening to the old man recount tales of resistance against invaders from decades past. "We've seen this before," the elder said, his voice steady but weary. "But this is different. They're not just here to occupy land, they're here to rewrite our history." Meanwhile, in Damascus, panic spread as news of Israel's advance reached the capital. The government, such as it was, struggled to organize a response. International diplomats scrambled to issue statements, their words carrying little weight in the face of Israeli tanks inching ever closer. In Istanbul, Turkey's foreign minister delivered a scathing condemnation of Israel's actions. "This is a blatant violation of international law," she declared. "We stand with the Syrian people and demand the immediate withdrawal of Israeli forces." Her words were broadcast globally, but in the Yarmouk Basin, they were just echoes, drowned out by the hum of military drones. Back in Jamla, the villagers prepared for what they knew was coming. Amen joined a group of young men and women organizing a resistance. They had no weapons, just the determination born of desperation. They gathered in secret, sharing plans and resources, hoping against hope that their efforts would mean something. Over the following weeks, the situation escalated. Israeli forces fortified their positions, establishing checkpoints and cutting off supply routes to the villages. Reports emerged of other towns falling under occupation, each one closer to Damascus. The international community remained divided, with some nations condemning the actions and others offering tacit support or silence. Amen's group staged small acts of defiance, sabotaging equipment, blocking roads, and spreading messages of resistance. Each act was a spark, small but bright against the encroaching darkness. The villagers' resilience became a symbol for others, inspiring similar movements across the region. As 2024 drew to a close, the Yarmouk Basin was a battlefield, not just of weapons but of wills. Amen and his people fought not just for their land but for the right to determine their future. And as the world watched, one question lingered: how far would the flames of occupation spread, and who would stand to extinguish them? The sharp cold of February settled heavily over the Yarmouk Basin, cloaking the land in a thick mist. In Jamla and Maraba, the line between day and night had blurred. Life had become a relentless struggle. Israeli forces had imposed martial law, confiscating what little supplies remained and severely restricting movement. Yet, deep within the valley, a rebellion was taking root. Don't miss out on the next part of this story. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback takes the conversation to the next level. Amen sat in a hidden cave, clutching an old radio. Beside him, Layla, a young woman who had recently joined the resistance, meticulously studied maps spread across the ground. Layla had been an engineering student at Damascus University, but now her calculations were not for bridges or buildings, but for the strategic placement of explosives. "We have a chance," Layla said without looking up. "Tomorrow night, they'll move supplies to their main base in Maraba. If we can disrupt that convoy, we'll slow their advance." Amen considered her words. Such an attack was risky, but it could provide a much-needed morale boost for the resistance. The radio crackled, interrupting his thoughts. Movement spotted to the west, a lookout reported. "The convoy is on the move." Amen rose quickly, rallying the group. They moved silently through the darkness, preparing an ambush in the hills. Their weapons were few, but their determination was unyielding. The night was moonless, and the valley lay silent. It was the kind of silence that amplified every heartbeat, every whispered breath. A distant rumble broke the stillness, the sound of engines. Israeli armored vehicles were approaching along the dirt road. Layla gave the signal, and the first explosive detonated, engulfing the lead vehicle in flames. The night lit up as the resistance fighters launched their attack, using makeshift weapons and guerrilla tactics. Amen leaped onto one of the armored vehicles, disabling its turret before retreating into the shadows. Layla, despite the chaos, directed the group with remarkable precision, blocking escape routes and forcing the soldiers into disarray. The battle was short but decisive. The convoy was completely neutralized, and its supplies became a lifeline for the resistance. But victory came at a cost. Layla was wounded, a bullet grazing her shoulder during the retreat. As Amen carried her to safety, she smiled faintly. "Something is changing," she whispered, her voice weak but resolute. "I can feel it." News of the ambush spread rapidly, igniting hope across the region. But the victory also provoked a fierce response. The next day, the Israeli forces unleashed heavy bombardments on the villages, reducing homes to rubble and forcing families to seek refuge wherever they could. Don't miss out on the next part of this story. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback takes the conversation to the next level. Amon, now an unofficial leader, worked tirelessly to organize the villagers. Amid the destruction, his grandfather's words echoed in his mind. The land grows stronger when watered with blood. But remember, it will only remain free if we have the courage to defend it. By March, the Israeli forces launched a massive operation to crush the resistance once and for all. The fighters used every resource at their disposal, laying traps and ambushing patrols in the rugged terrain. In Maraba's square, the resistance gathered for a final stand. They knew this battle could be their last. Yet their eyes reflected determination, not fear. "If I fall," Amon told the group, "bury me in this land. But never retreat. This land belongs to us and no one else." Gunfire echoed through the valley until dawn. The resistance fought valiantly, but by morning, the square was silent. Israeli forces advanced, but they had gained little. The valley's spirit remained unbroken. Amon's story became a tale of resilience, a victory marked by loss. Maraba fell that day, but the Yarmouk Basin continued to resist. The fight lived on in the hearts and minds of its people. Don't miss out on the next part of this story. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback takes the conversation to the next level. One day, the valley would be free again. And as the smoke cleared, the voice of a child echoed across the hills. "This land is ours. No one can change that." The collapse of Syria's 61-year-old Ba'ath regime on December 8 has sent shockwaves across the Middle East, marking the end of an era and plunging the country into deeper uncertainty. The regime's fall came in the wake of fierce clashes that began intensifying in late November, leaving a power vacuum that regional players have been quick to exploit. Among them, Israel has acted with striking decisiveness, ramping up military operations and targeting the last vestiges of Syria's military infrastructure. Don't miss out on the next part of this story. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback takes the conversation to the next level. In a move that has drawn widespread attention, the Israeli military expanded its hold over the Golan Heights, a territory it has occupied since the Six-Day War in 1967. Long a flashpoint in Israeli-Syrian relations, the Golan Heights had been partly stabilized under the terms of the 1974 disengagement agreement, which established a buffer zone and delineated boundaries for demilitarized areas. However, with the Syrian government in disarray, these agreements appear to have been rendered moot. Israeli forces not only crossed into the buffer zone but also pushed their reach alarmingly close to Damascus, advancing to within 25 kilometers of the Syrian capital. The timing of Israel's actions has raised serious questions. Was this a calculated move to prevent Syrian military remnants from regrouping, or does it reflect a broader agenda aimed at reshaping territorial boundaries in the region? The incursion into Syrian territory has been accompanied by precision strikes aimed at dismantling any surviving military infrastructure, air bases, missile depots, and communication hubs. The message is clear. Israel intends to neutralize any potential threats emanating from the fractured Syrian state. Don't miss out on the next part of this story. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback takes the conversation to the next level. For Israel, the collapse of the Ba'ath regime may represent an opportunity to solidify its position in the Golan Heights and beyond. But this aggressive posture is not without risks. The move has already triggered condemnation from Syria's remaining factions and their allies, including Iran and Hezbollah, both of which have deep-rooted interests in Syria. Could this escalation ignite a broader regional conflict, dragging Lebanon, Iraq, and potentially even Turkey into the fray? Meanwhile, the Syrian people are left to face an increasingly dire situation. Refugees who fled earlier phases of the conflict now find themselves watching their homeland descend into further chaos. Within the country, civilians are caught between the remnants of former regime loyalists, opposition groups, and foreign military forces. The question of Syria's sovereignty, already tenuous for years, now hangs by a thread. In the international arena, reactions have been mixed. While Western powers, including the United States, have historically backed Israel's security concerns, many are wary of how this aggressive expansion could destabilize an already fragile region. Russia, long an ally of the Assad regime, has thus far refrained from overtly challenging Israel's actions, likely calculating its own strategy in the wake of its diminished influence in Syria. At the same time, Iran and Hezbollah have ramped up rhetoric, signaling potential retaliation, which could open a new chapter of hostilities. Don't miss out on the next part of this story. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback takes the conversation to the next level. This precarious situation prompts a flood of questions. Will Israel's actions provoke an international response, or will the global community stand by as the region teeters on the brink of further chaos? Could this power vacuum invite new alliances and reshape the dynamics of the Middle East? And most critically, how will Syria itself, fractured, war-torn, and leaderless, navigate its way forward, if at all? The collapse of the Ba'ath regime and the subsequent Israeli incursions represent not just a critical moment for Syria but a potential turning point for the entire Middle East. As these events unfold, they threaten to rewrite decades of geopolitical assumptions and alliances. One thing is certain: the story of Syria's disintegration and the ramifications of Israel's actions are far from over. The coming weeks may well determine whether this volatile chapter leads to a fragile peace or ignites a wider conflagration. Don't miss out on the next part of this story. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback takes the conversation to the next level.